The river below is small, roughly 30 kilometres from top to bottom, but it is the future of thousands of small waterways like this one that will test people's capacity to manage the world's ecosystems, for better or for worse. Waterways are places that people enjoy, but now, like rivers around the planet, this one is at risk of becoming just another weed-infested ditch. The Oyster Harbour Catchment Group and the City of Albany, volunteers and contractors have been active in managing these pressures, but their work often goes unnoticed. My name is Steve, and over the past few decades I've been involved in the sustainable management of waterways along the south coast of Western Australia.
There's a problem to solve. If the natural values of the King River and others like it are worth preserving, who's going to do it and how are they going to do it?
Many residents along this river have said they value the naturalness and tranquility of the place. They would like it to stay the way it is, but for that to happen, a greater community effort is needed, and that will involve a significant change of values. It doesn't take much observation to see that the greater part of the Australian community are busy taking from the environment in so many ways and put nothing much back, except. Well, to be fair, a small portion of the nation's taxes are returned in the form of environmental conservation works, and there are small groups of volunteers and individuals achieving a great deal despite the many obstacles. This waterway was named the King River by Dr. Thomas Wilson around 1829. One early map shows the name as Warricooliup, a meaningful name no doubt to the local Aboriginal people who had enjoyed its provision for thousands of years. It flows all year round, unlike other much larger rivers in this part of the world, and ends its journey at scenic Oyster Harbour. I spoke with local resident Justin Hardy about his passion to see the King River maintained in good natural order. Justin, you've had quite a long involvement now with helping to conserve the environment of this part of the King River, and I'm intrigued as to what has motivated you to do that, given that most people could not be bothered.
I guess what I really enjoy about the river is the sheer naturalness of it, and it's just abundant with wildlife and bird life, and it's always changing all through the seasons. You really feel you're sort of part of nature. There's always something new out there in the natural world. I think that's, there's always something that will surprise you, even on a wet, cold day. Another aspect of it is where the track wanders through the bigger timber, and you find you're sort of walking through your high canopy, and you can really get that feeling of a forest. But at the same time, you've got the proximity of the water all the time, and the water's flowing all the time, and I think that's another special component of it.
So what sort of things have been done over the years along the King River?
Yeah, since about 2005, there's been a fair bit of activity to control the weeds that are invading into the area. That's probably the main conservation effort. At the same time, there's been a small amount of revegetation as well.
How would you say the community overall has responded to this sort of work?
Yeah, I think there generally there is an awareness of that there's work going on in the area. primarily because we've done the ladder drops and there's word of mouth. The word has got out over time. Involvement is a different issue. People are so busy with their various aspects of their lives. A lot of the activity that we do as a volunteer is it's not always that easy because you're also competing with other activities.
Billaboya Reserve lies between the branching tributaries of the upper catchment and the tidal reaches at the lower end. In many ways it represents the accessible public face of the King, and many landowners living along the banks appreciate its value.
The features that describe ecological health of a river system are often found in the less obvious things that don't stand out to the casual observer. The overhanging sedges that protect a bank from erosion and provide habitat for aquatic invertebrates and fish. The deeper pool areas and trees that provide shade and control the temperature of the water in the river. The logs and branches that provide homes for the little animals and other creatures that live on the banks and in the river. And of course the weeds that tend to dominate and compromise the habitat and diversity.
It's a known fact now in the medical world that I think they call it nature deficit syndrome. People actually hearken to get out in the urban life and the busyness of life, and they see the naturalness of the world as a place to get away and to chill out, I suppose, is the best way of putting it. But to be able to actually do something at a local level is very rewarding, with just by giving a little bit of time and to make a difference. And I think to be able to actually see the results of the effort as well is probably the most rewarding thing of all.
Alan Hawley is a local farmer who has spent his entire life in the area and knows more than most about the history of the place.
We came to the district in 1926, and then when I was 20 years old that I started taking interest in what was in the King, because I'd never been up there before.
How do you remember it in terms of, has it changed a lot?
Well, the river has changed, but the area behind the river has changed dramatically, because I can remember it being all bush, then all cleared, and then subdivided, and hobby farms built on it. And where there's been cattle, the natural growth has been all killed. Where there's been sheep, it's quite good.
What do you remember about the river quality back, in those early days?
The river quality itself has obviously deteriorated with a lot more development, a lot more farming. Really, for Australian standards, it's pretty good. Phillips Brook is very, very good water, and it perennial, runs all year round. And that's a good part about the main river down Billaboya Reserve, that it is well and truly shaded, and consequently it keeps its health.
Say in another Alan Hawley lifetime in the future, 60 plus years, how would you like it to look?
I would like to see the trees increase in number.
Rivers eastward of the King are salty, and that's a natural characteristic. But after clearing for agriculture, rising saline groundwaters, erosion and massive amounts of sediment have changed the catchment ecosystems considerably. The King River is quite fresh by comparison. The dark tannin colour exuded from the fringing native vegetation gives an impression of depth and mystery, but in reality the pools are quite shallow. The City of Albany take the care of reserves like Billaboya seriously. I followed up Peter Stewart, who with his team have their hands full doing the job.
My name's Peter Stewart. The city reserves that I help manage as part of our team, they really are a community asset. But we are very, very fortunate to have some really nice pieces of bushland that are intact. So unless we manage them properly and as efficiently as we can, our bushland is going to be under threat. So within my role at the City of Albany, our reserve management is mainly dealing with reducing the threats, and some of the threats are environmental weeds, inappropriate activities like forward driving, firewood cutting, rubbish dumping. We do have a very good team with us, and when people stop and ask what we're doing, if we're weeding or something, we'll definitely spend the time to try and enlighten people, give a little bit of education and just reinforce that notion of valuing our bushland. The
largest tributary of the King is Millbrook, and residents Jeff and Diane Lodge have taken it upon themselves to rehabilitate the 150-metre reach that passes through their property. They're true pioneers of the essential change in community values that's needed to look after the river.
I was born at Beverley in the Depression days, probably 20 miles out of town, and so I took an interest in all the vegetation and the plants and that just naturally, I think, and I've retained it for my whole life.
Well, I'm a farm girl from way back. I love being able to see out, which is what you can do here. But I do love it down there at the creek to go. I love particularly going to the other side. It's natural, and I love the water, of course.
At some point you decided to rehabilitate the stream environment, so how did that come about?
Oh, well, I think the most damage that happens to a waterway is stock. I thought, well, the best thing you can do is to fence it off. Stock, especially cattle, live near the water and they spoil the environment. Because this whole bank was just solid, collared kite, and I've got rid of it all. Well, I find that the maintaining it's getting easier every year. It's got to the stage where there's practically very little comes back.
The King River does not have the grand features we associate with stunning national parks, spectacular panoramas, nor rare and endangered plants and animals. But it does represent much of what our landscape is mostly about.
Yeah, I think our goal is to try and have people that live in the area take not just pride, but to go to a little bit of extra trouble looking after it in their own way.
Oyster Harbour Catchment Group's been pushing really hard to get it all fenced off, so that's helping. But once you fence it off, you've got to maintain weeds, of course.
The Kregel one is environmental weeds as the biggest threat.
But now it's thickened up and the vegetation has got fairly dense. I'm getting a lot less trouble with the weeds coming in.
Lived on the river all these years, and it's lovely to have the water there, particularly when it's fresh. It's just wonderful.